Hey, is that Timmy's?
Yeah, because we're in Canada.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Tukes and Tires YouTube channel. As always, I'm Zach, and this week we're jumping right into it. Obviously, you read the title. We're going to be chopping this main dash harness down to get ready for the Dakota Digital gauges and for the Vintage Air kit. The Dakota Digital gauges is a little bit more complicated on what we have to do, so I'm actually going to have a special guest come on here and tell us how to read the pinout on this here plug and find the wires you're looking for. So here he is. He's a really awesome shop teacher. So, you know, welcome him with open arms because he's a pretty awesome dude. So here he is. Thank you, Zach. I am indeed the world's best supply shop teacher. My name's Mr. Beaver and you're in Wiring 101A. So what are we doing here? We're getting down to the basics of wiring so you can figure out how to fixture your harness. So you're going to have to open your textbooks, and for you delinquents in the back row that did not bring your textbooks, I will put this information up on the overhead projector so you can copy it down in your notes. We're turning to page 380. When do you look at this, does your brain basically turn inside out and you have a mental breakdown? Most likely, because mine did. But, so what is all this mumbo jumbo? How do you tackle this thing? Well, these are the steps that you're going to need to take. So obviously, you need to figure out what year your vehicle is. What colors match up to your stuff. So I will put another diagram on the screen that shows for all the warning lights and these functions what they do and for what years that you can cross-reference from these notes to those notes to find out what you got, what your wires do, and we'll be all happy campers by the end of this. So obviously you can see here we have the pinout, and if you have yourself one of these harnesses, you can see that it's 1 through 18. Mine, 14 does nothing. And you can see here that I've laid it out very nicely for everybody, so you can see on plug 1 it is circuit 11 and so on and so forth for all those circuits. And you can see here in this wiring diagram chart that we have 1 through 18, what the colors are, what the functions are for those colors, and what the circuit number is. So when you are looking at this here page, and we're going to get a close-up of this, so that you can see when you're looking at this, you can, because they don't tell you what pin is, they just show you what circuit number this is, and you can cross-reference when you're looking at these numbers here for what the circuit number is and what it does. How do you find out? Let's for say you're looking for the oil pressure wire. Very simple looking on these sheets. It's not that hard. So obviously you can see we can go to the other side here for demonstration purposes that we have a 87 with a V8 and we're looking for the oil pressure sensor. Obviously oil pressure sensor, we can see that that is circuit 31 and that goes to, let's see here, it says number 5, 31 is 5. So when we go to this here diagram of the engine, you can see that we look here for the oil pressure sender, and on that there should be a corresponding number with the wire here, and it tells me that it's 31. So when you go back to this here diagram, you can find 31 and find out which wire you're looking for. Obviously, this here has been done by my good student Zach for his K5 Blazer. Some of these colors might not match yours because every year and make and model had different colors and different functions in this plug. This is obviously made for this specific harness, but you can figure out from the information from the sheets that I have given you, because you know you're going to do your homework, and you better do your homework, that you'll be able to find out what the functions are and what colors go to what. Obviously, if you're really in a pickle, you can also go to your fuse box and find out what each wire does from this pinout to what color it goes to, then to this here plug. That is the best way that I can explain it. I don't know if that helps anyone, but this has been a message from Mr. Beaver. So, back to you, Zach. Thank you for this opportunity. hopefully we'll be back in the future. Well, isn't Mr. Beaver just an awesome dude? I totally want him as a shop teacher, but hopefully he explained that good enough for you guys. I'll give you guys a little closer look up at this. I don't know if any of this is going to help anybody. It's just the best way my brain can picture it, because obviously nobody gives you a chart that looks like this with the circuit numbers and which pins are corresponding. Obviously, these are the colors that I had for my wiring, and obviously these are what the pin numbers are, and then there's the circuit numbers here. So hopefully you guys can see that. Don't know if that's just for Blazer. I know that's what it worked out for mine, because I did end up having to find, just to make sure that when I was reading all these wiring diagrams and stuff like that, and I will put pictures of all this stuff. I'll take better pictures so that you guys, if you don't have this book, you can see. It'll be just for the V8 side and for this other pinout side. And there was one other sheet I found. Obviously, I probably already put it on the screen beforehand. Don't know if you guys can read that. It's pretty blurry. But if you do enough research by searching up instrument cluster stuff, you can find that page online and read a little bit better. I found that worked out the best. So we're going to jump into labeling this stuff now. And I'm going to show you the sweet little tool that I bought to crimp some cool ends onto this. So here we go. Okay guys, well, now that we have all these wires labeled and what they do, you can see what I did is I took this plug and I de-pinned them. So I figured I'd show you the guys that first and how this works. So you just, I made this little flat thing. I just pounded out of a piece of wire. But all you do is you look at your pin like that, shove it in there, give it a little wiggle, and then this should slide right out the back. I just did that because it was easier for me to de-pin all this, to pull all the wires out separately, and then, go from there. You obviously wouldn't have to do that. You could just chop all these off and whatever. Just the way I did it. I will also put another diagram up on the screen right now of the wires that Dakota Digital wants you to use. You can also find that online if you're looking for a specific year or whatever. Basically, I mean, you're using their product, so you should probably use their diagram of what wires they want you to use out of this for what numbers. Basically, this is just for your own personal knowledge of what colors are what, just so that you can reference, so you have an idea. So now, this is the fancy little tool I bought. This is the box from Dakota Digital. I'll show you that in a second. This is the fancy little tool I bought. So, you could just shove a stray wire into the end of this box. They give you these little slots here where this goes into, fine and dandy. But I'm just the kind of person where it's like, I don't know, say you have to take that out for some reason, and then you just got all these stray wires hanging all over the place, and that's no fun. So this thing, so if we just cut the end off of our wiring harness, strip it, I don't know, I'd say it's about a 1/2 inch, maybe not quite. So it gives you an end that looks like that, and then we open up our box here, and I'm gonna dump all these. This red size seems to fit on there okay. I bought this on Amazon. I'll put it down in the description down below so you guys can buy it if you're interested in it. It was fairly cheap. But these just kind of slip onto the end like so, and then you take this thing and you just stick it on there and give her a crimp, and then I'll hold on here. I'll take you guys out of here if I can get my phone out. And then you can see that it's got this like really nice crimped end on there. So when you go to, hold on here. So when you guys go to take your box and you want to shove your wire in there, that it's got this really nice, kind of crimped end on it. So that's what I'm using. You don't have to do that. You can just shove the wire straight in there and, call it a day. just thought that was a neat little tool. Maybe you could use it for something else. I'll probably never end up using it ever again in my whole entire life. So we'll get all those crimped on there and cut. And then I think we're moving on to the wiring for the vintage air. So there you go. That's pretty cool. Okay, guys. Just before we get to doing the stuff for the vintage air, because that is like the easiest part of this whole process. This section that I'm doing right now is really going to separate the boys from the men. As you can see, I've started taking all the old loom off, because obviously there's stuff in here that, you know, we just don't need anymore. Like, there's this old plug for the old computer, this thing, I have no idea what the heck that does. And then over here, there's a plug that would have went into the old computer. So the best thing I can tell you guys is obviously take your time when you're doing this. This is really hard to film, so I'm probably not going to show it. But when you de-loom this, I did show this in my last video I did on wiring on the outside. When you ever have a junction where something comes out and separate, what I do is I just wrap that section with electrical tape, and that shows you where those wires come off of. And same with all this other stuff. All these wires come out here. So I'll probably show you this once we have everything we don't need stripped out, and I'll show you afterwards all the stuff that we've taken out and what you have to do to get to that point. And then we're moving on to the vintage air stuff. So it's starting to, you know, look terrifying. Okay, guys, well, we got all those wires out of there from the old computer and stuff, and I cleaned this up a little bit. I actually bought a label maker. It's amazing the types of things that you can label once you got one of those, but it really makes the job a lot easier. But now we're going to talk about the vintage air stuff. So it's a pretty simple setup, so I'm not going to get into too much detail about it. But basically you can see here that there's the original light that would have been in this switch. And then, Lacey, you gotta get out of here, dude. And then there's this trigger wire, and all this is a keyed power, and it's separate from the whole other heating system. And you can see it here in this plug. It's this one all the way, I don't know, I think it says C or something in there, but you can see it in my harness. It's the only one that comes from the fuse box, and this is just to trigger it so that it knows that the vehicle is on, so that you can turn your heater on. And that's the only two wires from the original harness that the vintage air is going to need. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I ended up you know, stripping a whole bunch of stuff out. So I saved a 12 volt power that, you know, down the road maybe you might need something. And I ended up, Lacey, what's going on? I ended up actually wrapping it in hockey tape, because, you know, that's the most Canadian thing you can do. And also it's from Ontario, you know, home friggin' province there. So that's cool. I don't know, it just gives it a, you know, kind of an old factory look. I don't know, I kind of like it more than all that junk that was on there. Also, there's a few wires in this I'm actually not going to use, so I ended up keeping them because they still go through the fuse box, but I just put some heat shrink over them, just in case. The Dakota Digital actually comes with its own sensors and wires, so I'll probably end up using those. And I figure I'd show you guys this before we sign off. So I went with the Square Body Syndicates Dakota Digital gauge. It looks pretty close to factory, and you know, you can't complain with that. And I also got it in kilometers instead of miles per hour because, you know, up here in Canada. Yeah, I think that's gonna do it for now, guys. Any questions about anything we've done on today's thing, or if you're not clear on something, let me know in the comments down below. I'll do my best to, you know, try to explain myself better. This is really complicated and really hard, but, you know, I'm trying my best here. But hopefully you'll learn something. So, we'll catch you guys next time. I really appreciate all you guys watching and subscribing. You guys are the best. But, yeah, till next week, or whenever I get doing something. But, we'll see you later, and don't forget to salute the beaver.